Alright, so I just finished watching and streaming on Moondancer 2 this time, the latest episode. And I gotta say, it was kind of cool because they kind of pulled a red versus blue, and the fact that when they started the season, the very first season, they had no idea how popular the show was going to be. They didn't know it was going to have this huge weird fan base and stuff like that. And they didn't know that they would have to actually put more and more effort into the writing, to the point where the writing is just up there with everything else. And what you saw in this episode was them retroactively going back, acknowledging the stuff that they said and the characters that they designed back then, and implementing them into the main story. Twilight had friends apparently, and you saw that in the first one when they tried to invite her to Moondancer's party. And what you see here is them retroactively going back and acknowledging. Moondancer is pretty much just a recolored Twilight Sparkle. I mean, that's pretty apparent, but they don't even acknowledge that, which is fine. It's kind of there and we realize it, but it's not really mentioned, and I guess if it was mentioned it would be awkward. But even if Colgate in her manic state of excitement could just say, "Isn't it funny how you guys look so alike?" You know, that would make sense. But I think it was because back in the day they didn't have too many unique puppet rigs. A lot of it are just palette swapped characters, and that's easy for animation. It means you don't have to even swap out with the hair symbols and stuff like that. But in this, I was actually really impressed that they didn't have her immediately kowtow to Twilight's, "Oh, I'm gonna throw you a party so that I feel better for making you feel like shit," you know? How she actually said that, you know, "I put myself out there. I was very recluse. I gave it a shot and you abandoned me, and then you left and didn't even say hello, or goodbye rather." And I do like the fact that they mention how often Twilight is still in Canterlot and she never goes back to her friends. I feel like this whole her trying to be nice to her friends was displayed as being horribly disingenuous, because it probably was. She couldn't even remember her so-called friends' names, yet she wanted to make amends. Not so that she could make it up to them so much, but so that she could feel better about herself. This was Twilight trying to make herself feel better. This wasn't really about her quote-unquote friends as much as it was about herself. So even in this episode, it's not her friendship problem, it's her ego problem. You have to remember, I think it's been about 2 or 3 years in Equestria since she's been in Canterlot as, you know, the old Twilight. So she's been gone for quite some time without writing or calling or even saying hello. And they even mentioned how Colgate was at the wedding and stuff. They took some weird scenes that, you know, they sprinkled these background characters all throughout, gave them that personality. They never mentioned that Colgate was, you know, dentist or anything, but they did mention Lemon Pie or whatever being the coordinator for all the fancy parties, because she's oftentimes there, and in the Canterlot wedding she was there planning it. They also mentioned how all of them were at the Canterlot wedding and Twilight still didn't say hello. So there was a lot of continuity stuff that they kind of tied back in retroactively. They never planned to do this in the beginning, but now that they're as big as they are, I guess they decided to go back and tie up some loose ends. Which I think it was cool that they did. And don't take me saying that Twilight's reasoning for going back is disingenuous as being a fault. That's probably how she would have realistically acted if she was, you know, a real person. That's probably how it would be. It'd be more for herself rather than her friends, quote unquote. So this episode wasn't like a main plot development point, but it was a good episode. At the very least, it's 10 times better than Princess Spike, that's for sure. So this guy's been Phantom, a luminous piece of out, and I'll see you guys in Everything's Wrong With, which will be out shortly.